Now to Canada, where about 1,000 wildfires continue to devastate the country. It's Canada's worst wildfire season on record. More than 37 million acres have burned, forcing mass evacuations. Troops have been deployed to fight blazes in parts of the country that cover an area the size of Greece. In the province of British Columbia, firefighters battling blazes in Kelowna say their biggest challenge is the lack of visibility. And a new report out says climate change made these wildfires twice as likely, increasing the chances of extreme fire weather conditions in eastern Canada. Well, a little earlier I spoke to our correspondent Wira Davis, who is in Kelowna, Canada. He explained that actually the visibility has now improved.
Yeah, the good news today is that some of that smoke you're talking about that had really not only affected people's health here on the ground, but it had prohibited the efforts of the authorities to spot the fires and deal with them. Much of that smoke has been lifted today, and here in this particular town at least, the danger caused by those fires has receded a bit. Some people are being allowed back in, but there are still people in West Kelowna on the other side of the lake here who are still prohibited from going home. As you say, in the whole of Canada there have been about, well, at least 1,000 wildfires this season, and now that is far more than they've ever had here before. I spoke to the Premier today of British Columbia, and he was in no doubt that the reason for this vast increase in wildfires across the region has basically to do with climate change, with man-made impact on the environment. Not only flooding in the wet season, but this is the fourth year in a row that there have been an excessively dry season in the summer in this part of Canada, and the authorities here are in no doubt that the climate change and the impact of humans on the environment has contributed to what we've seen here in the past week.
For the authorities, Wira, it's been overwhelming, hasn't it? And they have to think ahead, as you say, because this is something that's happening now year on year.
Yeah, and of course not just in Canada. The Premier is at pains to point out that we've seen similar scenes in the United States, across much of Europe, and it's a testament to the authorities here that they are well used to forest fires. There have been no loss of life. 30,000 people were evacuated from this side of the lake and the other side of the lake when those forest fires really started to encroach on people's homes. Several homes and businesses have been destroyed, but it is important that no lives were lost. Nonetheless, the Premier was pretty brutal today and blunt. He said, look, these kind of things are going to increase in future. We as a government can do things. We can improve fire safety, we can improve building regulations when it comes to dealing with fires. But at the end of the day, if places like this are going to be susceptible to more wildfires, then it's going to require more intervention from governments, from humans, to try and stop them happening in future. Not just here in Canada and not just here in British Columbia, but across those parts of the world. There's many parts of the world that have excessive dry seasons and are susceptible to wildfires like this.
And just a bit of a side issue, Wira, as well. Justin Trudeau, I noted, was critical of Meta because it was not accessible at a time when it would have been so important for people to share information during this period.
Yeah, that has been echoed by the authorities here. That's because of a row between the Canadian government and Meta or Facebook. But a lot of the local authorities here felt that one potential crucial arm of social media wasn't available to them to spread messages about evacuations, about the latest fire alerts. Now, there are other forms of social media. The government here, as I said, is well used to getting warnings out when there are wildfires like this. No fatalities, people hopefully able to get back to their homes. But that particular row between the Canadian government and Meta / Facebook is one that clearly needs to be resolved, because those social media warnings are a really important part of letting people know, early warning systems when there are forest fires like this.
Wira Davis there in Kelowna, Canada.